So I'm here to basically make the claim that whether you're building an IoT app, or an IoT device, or a smart service, they're all basically versions of a smart assistant, right? So if you're building a smartwatch, right, or glasses, you're trying to give smart notifications to the user. If you're building something like the Next, what you're trying to do is you're trying to help people regulate temperature or conserve energy, so on and so forth. So all of these devices try and be intelligent. All of these devices try and help you complete tasks. And all of them are basically taking on the function of an assistant. So if we're all in the space to build smart assistants, we have to ask ourselves, what makes a good assistant, right? So it doesn't matter if you're building the Next assistant for a remedial task or something else. Right? We all kind of have this big, grandiose idea of what a good assistant is, right? So if you have a personal assistant or an executive assistant, you want them to be timely, you want them to be relevant, you want them to give you the right information at the right time. You don't want them to constantly bombard you with notifications, right? You don't want them to constantly be asking for whether or not they should or shouldn't do something. And when you're thinking of building a product, this has to do with, do I roll out a bunch of customization features and enable on-off things? Or do I build something that's more intelligent, understands the user, and then kind of based on their profile, enables and disables features? So the short answer is data. Right? You need data to build a good assistant. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So I work for a company called Easilydo, and we've built this platform called Sift. And Sift is an AI engine that's built on top of email. Now, the AI space is maybe this big, right? And the email section is maybe this small. And we're laser focused on solving that problem. How do we get all of the right information about you from email? And we're exposing this to third parties today through an API and an SDK. And just to give you a sense of our scope, we're currently powering roughly 20 million email accounts through partnerships. And we have an app on both Android and iOS that has roughly 2.5 million installs. So what is Sift? What's it built on? So the answer, it's pretty simple. There are 4 big pillars that Sift is built on. So the first pillar is classification. So what we do is when we have access to an email account, we will look at all of the emails that start to come in, and we'll just classify them, right? Is this email, is it a bill? Is it a flight itinerary? Is it an email thread between 2 people trying to figure out when to meet, what time to meet, where to meet, et cetera, right? Once we've figured out the topic of that email, we have another pillar, and that's our parsing technology. Right? So we've figured out that this email is a flight itinerary. Then we take that email and we give it to our parser, and our parser is able to say, oh, here's the departure airport. Here's the departure time. Here's the flight confirmation number. And basically, it's able to pull out all of the key fields that are relevant for that kind of email. Right? So if you're thinking about a bill, then you need to pay a vendor. So you need a vendor name, you need an amount, you need a due date, et cetera. The third pillar is NLP. Not everything is easy to classify. Not everything is easy to parse. So if you're trying to do something really dynamic, like scheduling a meeting, for example, right, you're going to have this long thread. It's going to have a lot of proposed times. It might have multiple people. And you're going to need to find a way to figure out, OK, what do they agree on at the end? And that's where our NLP comes in. And then the last pillar is machine learning. And this is probably the most crucial part of the tech stack that we've built, and it helps keep the other 3 pillars up to date. An example, right? So we're working on classifying travel. And all of a sudden, travel emails look fundamentally different for some crazy reason that I can't explain. Right? How do we catch that? How do we figure out how to adapt? And then how do we make those changes quickly to the 22 million users that we're powering? Right? And Our algorithms here help keep everything in fine shape. Now, the reason this is so important, again, for any assistant service, whether it be hardware or software, is because it enables you to do things like categorize content, right? You're building an assistant, the next best calendar, right? Then you need to figure out what travel emails are coming in so you could book that calendar slot as busy or let other people know that the user's not going to be in town. This data is also really powerful at generating personalized experiences. So earlier I let you know that you can have customization with on-off signals. But with this data, we can let you know, hey, this user is getting a ton of bill emails. You don't need to show him all this travel stuff. He doesn't fly. But he's an account manager or an office admin, and he's buying stuff left and right. You should only enable this set of features that's really going to help him. That way you don't clutter the experience with a zillion things, and you're targeting the user without asking them to fill out forms or and experiment with features within the app. It's great for shortening the learning curve for apps and devices. Urgency. This is great. I've got maybe 20 productivity apps on my phone, and all of them send me notifications all of the time. Now, I think this is hilarious because I'm installing productivity apps not to be checking my phone about notifications. I'm installing productivity apps because I want the right information at the right time, not all the information all of the time. Right? The difference between chaos and organization, urgency and relevance. Relevance, right? I touched on that one already, so I'll glance by it. And then context, right? So if I have a flight, and that flight leaves from SFO, then not only do I need to know that, yes, it's a flight that leaves at 3:30 p.m., but I need to know whether or not it's a domestic or international flight, so I can plan to be there 3 hours in advance or 1 hour in advance. More than that, I want to know what the traffic is on the 101, because if you live here, you know that that highway is a nightmare, and sometimes getting to the airport at 2:30 could be a total mess. Right? So being able to provide the end user the context, relevance, urgency, personalization, and in some cases categorization is key for anything that you're building that touches an end user. And if you have these, this lets your service have a fantastic relationship with the end user, because basically you're delivering exceptional value in the form of subtle notifications and assistance that's very nuanced and precise. Right? You're not showing them an entire email. You're not taking them out of the app. You're just giving them that right bit of information. That's pervasive. Right? So it's everywhere in its domain. So if you're a travel app, you need to take on the entire travel experience, from hotels to flights, from reminding you when to leave, from letting you know if there's a gate change. Right? And this data could let you do all of that. And then it also learns from user behavior. As new emails come in, it can adapt. If you had a user that was buying stuff all the time, and now he's traveling all the time, maybe he changed jobs. Right? And this system can give you the data updates you need to figure out what features to turn on and off for them. So again, this service is live. It's doing really well. And if you're a developer and you're interested, this is kind of the flow that you can expect. Right? We can connect to your service or IoT device in one of two ways, through an API or through email connection. And once we intercept an email, we can categorize it. So as you see here, we've identified an email as a flight. It's a Southwest flight. And then here you see specific parsed fields. Right? So in the response that we provide the developer, we're giving you things like the user's first name, the reservation number, and other key fields that are relevant for that data. So at a high level, these are all of the email types that we can identify in an inbox today that are available through the API. So hotels, letting you know the address of the hotel, the reservation date, the check-in time, the checkout time. We can even provide you with a link to the hotel details. So if you want to know if it is a gym, for example, right, it is an end user, then we can give you that information. Flights, I touched on that a little bit, but we can give you all of the reservation information that's contained within that email in a structured way for you to build impressive experiences on top of. Boarding passes, this may sound similar to flights, but it's actually awesome if an airline provides it, bless you. So say, for example, you're traveling to Austin, right? Not only will you get a flight itinerary email, but in some cases, airlines will also send you the actual QR boarding pass. So when you come to security, you could just show your phone. And this is awesome, because if you arrive at an airport, we could let you know, hey, your flight's on time, don't worry, and then send a push notification with the boarding pass, so you don't need to check in or print it out, bless you. Right? You could just go in, go to security, and you're done. Events, this supports everything from Fandango tickets that you buy, Ticketmaster, and much, much more, right? Including if you bought a ticket to this event, we'd be able to parse out all the fields and provide that to the developer. Contacts, this one right here, we've seen a lot of interest from CRM companies. So a CRM company is also an assistant company, but it's a sales assistant, right? It's basically a log of all of your email communications. It tries to let you know when to send the next email, who to send the next email to, and what you should write about. So we can automatically detect all of the contact data and upload it for you into Salesforce, Sugar, whatever your CRM system is. So it's a really awesome integration, and we're hoping to go live with something like that soon. And then bills, quickly talked on that earlier. So if you owe Verizon Wireless $120 because that's your wireless fee, then we'll be able to pull that information out of email. And then similar parsing capabilities for things like packages. So if you're buying stuff on Amazon, this is great. It could let you know when your packages arrive. Receipts, car rentals, trains, and more is to come. So I talked about a couple of use cases, and then I want to broaden the use case set just a little bit, because I know there are lots of different people in the room working on different kinds of problems. So I threw a couple of total random mock-ups up. So if this applies to you, great. If not, then you can kind of get the gist. So smart TV apps, or smart TVs themselves, right? They basically try and give you the right content that you enjoy at the right time. But if you're gone and on vacation, you're going to miss something, we can parse out the travel details, let the smart TV know that you're away, and then it could record that show for you or send you a notification and something like this. Right? Smart watches. I love this use case. I've had one for a while, and I'm not exactly sure that it's ready for mass consumer, but I really appreciate the notifications that I'm receiving. And using the data that we can provide in OEM, like flight information, package information, or more, you could push smart notifications onto the watch, and then this thing becomes, from something that's just OK and probably not ready for mass market to something that has relevance and functionality for basically everyone. And then another big sector within the IoT space is home security, right? So I forget to lock my apartment all the time, right? But if I had a smart lock, right, then it could let me know if it's armed or disarmed, and if I'm traveling, it could automatically lock it for me. And again, we could provide the data to that sort of IoT device to make sure that your home is secure when you're away. And that's it on Easilydo. If we have time, I also prepped a few things on the whole sector, right? Whether or not parsing email is something that we're ready for. I hope we are. And some people, I think, 2 years ago would have freaked out and said, what are you doing looking at email? Don't get near me. But now you have companies like Google who are doing this to everybody if you have a Gmail account. You have a bunch of different kinds of services being offered to end users, like smart calendar apps, that are showing users that in exchange for access to privacy, right, access to email, these services can provide a tremendous amount of value.